Did you know that NSLA is also engaged in a campaign to link families to summer programs? Because if they do not know that they're available or they are present, it's tough, right? And so we've launched Discover Summer, and our friends at Clear Channel help us to promote it with billboards all over the country. And if you super exciting to walk through the airport or to walk in Midtown Manhattan and see Discover Summer and NSLA present for sure. There are more than 50,000 programs all over 50 states that are listed in this resource last year. And we invite you and your program to sign up so your program is present. So when a parent is looking, a caregiver is looking for an opportunity, they can go into this search engine and check it out and find things within their area. So please check out this quick video, tell you more about it.
Well, hello, everyone. I'm Chris Smith, Executive Director of Boston After School and Beyond. It's great to be with you today and with NSLA. We're a citywide intermediary who works with nearly 500 programs and more than 20,000 students during the year. And today I'm pleased to facilitate the panel called Building Powerful Partnerships Through Summer Programs. In Boston, we talk a lot about partnerships being necessary, not just nice to have. Necessary because they deploy resources against the needs and interests of young people, which we know vary. And today I'm pleased to be joined by four panelists who represent four very different approaches to partnership, four different sets of expertise and resources. And I'm delighted to welcome them today. I'll introduce them one by one and get right into the panel. So we're joined by Chris Capuano from the MLB Major League Baseball Players Trust out of New York, I believe. Chris, welcome.
Thank you.
We're covering most of the country today. We have Marlon Montgomery from the Boys and Girls Clubs of Metro Atlanta, Sonia Nelson from the Columbus Metropolitan Housing Authority, and last but not least, Cheryl Evans Davis, San Francisco Human Rights Commission. So four really different organizations, interesting cross-cutting approaches to partnership. So I'd like to kick things off by getting each of you just to tell us what makes your partnership approach unique and powerful. How do you deploy the elements of people, place, expertise? Chris, let's start with you.
Great. Thanks, Chris. And wonderful to be here today. A big thank you to the NSLA for organizing this. But as Chris said, again, my name is Chris Capuano. I'm not only the chair of the board of the Players Trust, which is the charitable nonprofit arm of the MLBPA, or the union that represents all major and minor league baseball players. So about 1,000 or more major league players in any given year, and about 5,500 minor league players as well for one of the 30 major league clubs. So, you know, I think we truly exist. We're the only nonprofit that exists to leverage the passions, interests, voice platforms of our players. So this is kind of a powerful responsibility that we view, that we take great care in honoring and respecting. And most of our larger partnerships really center around a common interest or theme that so many of our players share, and that's giving back to and empowering the next generation, right, through the game that they love. So this is the game that they, again, grew up with. They know, a game that's taught them, and I say them, it's also us. I was a former major league player myself before I joined the MLBPA 5 years ago. And the game has taught me so much outside the lines. That's really helped me in life. So we've kind of tried to harness this common interest in giving back to the next gen in some unique ways that we hope inspires joy, growth, a love not only of sport, but learning in young people. So we focus on a lot of grassroots, hyper-local based organizations and nonprofits that can best benefit from the free resources that we have to offer. Two of those examples, one you just heard from Denzel and LearnFresh, are geared towards the academic as well as the social emotional development of middle school youth in particular. One of those is the STEM League, the MLB Players STEM League board game that we have. I just had the privilege of hosting one out of our Arizona office where we had a surprise visit from Corbin Carroll, who's a young rising star in Arizona, who surprised the kids with a trip for the winners to the All-Star game this year in Dallas. And you know, these kids watching their excitement and the great job that LearnFresh does is truly inspirational. Our players love being a part of activations like this. So STEM League is a great example of a program that we offer. And then we also have a new one called a Players Exchange, which is a bit of a cultural exchange. Think of it as a bit of a virtual pen pal. So you can have classrooms in Georgia, Nebraska, globally, where students work on a curriculum. You know, the purpose is not only to prevent that summer slide, but also, you know, bridge that cross-cultural understanding. And that's where we have our players come in from Latin America, Japan, Europe, in addition to the US, to really help develop that curriculum, join Zoom calls in some cases. So I think that's a little bit about, you know, what makes a partnership with the Players Trust unique, and some of the programs that we're very excited about.
Thanks, Chris. Sounds like you cover a lot of ground. Of course, you're at the intersection of social, emotional, and academic learning. There's no choice to be made there, and in some ways, they're one and the same. Marlon, let's go to you. Tell us about your approach at the Boys and Girls Club of Metro Atlanta.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Chris, and thank you to the NSLA for hosting this today. It's a great day full of very valuable information. Again, I'm Marlon Montgomery, Vice President of Youth Development for BGCMA, our Metro Atlanta clubs with the Boys and Girls Clubs. And really, our summer is driven by our mission, which is to ignite the unlimited potential of kids and teens by providing those safe, inclusive, and engaging environments, of which we provide to over 7,000 students per year. This is really for the point of helping thousands of young leaders thrive in life and strengthen the futures of their communities. And so our summer is really targeting that goal itself. And so we do this through a variety of programming that fall in a lot of different categories. For one, expanded learning, which is really our opportunity to combat summer learning loss. And so we use a program throughout our clubs called Summer Brain Gain, which is a prevention program, and it's designed specifically for youth and teens. It's designed with fun themes that are perfect for summer, engaging hands-on activities as well as field trips. Some of those field trips could be focused in the area of STEM, which do involve key partnerships that we have, one of which is with Georgia State University, where there's a STEM camp that we take a good number of our students to. And then there's also a lot of outdoor learning opportunities, whether, you know, we really love to get our youth and teens in nature, whether that be hiking, taking trips to places like Tidy Island here in Georgia, or visits to the botanical gardens, even the Georgia Aquarium, where they can learn more about nature. But really, I want to highlight our college and career and workforce readiness programs that we run throughout the year. One of our key summer partnerships has been with actually a major law firm here in Atlanta, and that's Kilpatrick, Townsend, and Stockton. And together, we formed a camp called KTS Law Camp, which over the past 2 years has served about 40 teens. And we're ramping up again to have another iteration of that this summer. This partnership is, you know, existing thanks to our board chair, actually. And so we talk about partnership development and ways to get your board involved. Where our board chair, Charlie Henn, has been a key component in making this take place. He's a partner over at Kilpatrick and Townsend. And then also our Director of College and Career Readiness, Dr. Anna Jones, who is continuing to lead this effort, where we take 20 teens to learn about a variety of career paths across the firm there in Atlanta. They get a chance to meet the professionals themselves, have those conversations within professional workshops, whether that has to do with public speaking or networking. But I think the big deal about this entire thing is it leads to a culminating event where our youth and teens, or our teens, I'm sorry, get a chance to take part in a half-day mock trial, which is just incredible, an incredible experience for them. And then along that week, they're also visiting some of the law schools here in Atlanta. Again, at Georgia State, I believe, is one of the ones that we've visited in the past. And so it's really about engagement for us. It's really about getting our teens outside of the building, getting them into the experiences that open their eyes up to what's in the world.
Thanks, Marlon. Definitely a theme of exposing young people to people and places they might not otherwise see, but for your involvement. And again, more focus on making the most of local resources, including the law firm, your board chair. We call that making the entire city a classroom, that if you look hard enough, there are learning opportunities everywhere. Let's keep going west and go to Cheryl at the San Francisco Human Rights Commission. What makes your approach unique and powerful?
Great. Thank you so much. And thank you to NSLA for hosting this. I know when I was working in community and teaching school, I really appreciated the learnings that came from the National Summer Learning Association. I think what makes us unique first and foremost is that the Human Rights Commission is not a place where people typically think about youth development or youth engagement, but that we've really been stressing and working collaboratively with the mayor specifically on addressing these disparities that we know happen during the summer months in terms of who has access to high quality programming, who has access to summer learning that doesn't feel punitive and feel like you're still being penalized for not learning during the school year. And so we've been very intentional in our approaches. And so we have this collaboration that is both with city agencies, with corporations, with individual community members, as well as with students and families. Two programs that I would highlight and say, recognize as a good practice and good models that we run on behalf of the mayor, on behalf of the city and county of San Francisco, is Opportunities for All, which is a paid internship program, which serves young people from high school. So we occasionally have 12-year-olds who are getting ready to be freshmen in high school that we support and provide stipends for because they can't earn wages yet, all the way up to 25, so that we're also working with college age students, but really creating these spaces for experiential learning where folks can develop those skills. And so whether they're ready for a direct internship or whether we're having to put them in cohorts to work on projects, but they're still having the opportunity to earn wages and not having to choose between learning and making money, where so many students have that conflict where they could use the opportunity to spend more time engaged in learning activities, but they really need to make some money to actually support their household. And then the other program that we have is one that is focused on literacy, which is a collection of nonprofits, the library, other community city partners, where we focus on book clubs and activations that get literacy projects in front of families, and where we have incentives and we do this engagement, and whether it's an ice cream social where the whole family gets to come, because when we start to talk about summer learning, we can't just focus on the school or a nonprofit. We really need the whole community to engage and be a part of that process. And so those are the things that we're really trying to say, is that it's not just a school's problem, it's not just a parents' problem, it is collectively the whole community's problem. And how do we make sure that every young person has access to engaging, fun, learning opportunities during the summer that make them want to participate and that they don't feel like they're forced to engage in.
Now, well said. And summer learning is everyone's business. Many different kinds of agencies, nonprofits, other groups can play a meaningful part in this. I'd love to hear from Sonia from the Columbus Metropolitan Housing Authority. How do you play a role in summer learning? What makes your approach somewhat unique or powerful?
Thank you, Chris. And again, thank you to NSLA for the opportunity to share. So one of the things that with CMHA is unique is we're not a direct service provider either. We just got a whole bunch of kids that live in our housing. And so a few years ago, CMHA decided to lean a little bit more into their mission, particularly the part around helping our residents have access to needed social services. And while we're large as a housing authority with over 5,000 units that CMHA owns and operate, as well as providing vouchers for subsidy for over 13,000 households, we serve 38,000 people in Franklin County, and most of them are our youth. And so when it came to looking at how do we support our residents to be successful in housing, we decided to look at that from a housing perspective. When individuals have access to free or reduced summer learning programs, then they don't have to worry about what their children are doing at home during the summer while they go to work. That means there's less damages to the property. That means that their neighbors can have more quiet enjoyment because they're not home entertaining themselves. And that also equates to less turnover and the impact not only to the property and having to turn a unit to be able to get it prepared, but the overall impact to a family that now has to move because of related lease violations that can occur. So we look at the summer learning opportunities as a way for our residents to be able to maintain their housing stability. And we also do it from in a way that is very diverse. We have to have a range of options that is just as diverse as the population that we serve. Over 80% of our residents identify as Black or African American, but we know a majority of them that state that are from a refugee immigrant population that may not have their needs met from some traditional summer learning programs. And so it's making sure that we have diverse options that not only benefit various cultures, but the needs and likes of our students. And partnerships become important because we not only want to provide programming on site at our housing communities, but we also want to have fun learning opportunities that are available that our youth can actually travel to, and so that are offsite, and build a relationship that is longer than the summer. So from our aspect and being able to support our residents in any way that they want, any services that they want, being comprehensive and diverse, and making sure that we meet our residents' needs so that they can maintain housing stability is our focus.
That's great. And, taken together, these four approaches, I think you said it, that you need a diverse set of approaches in order to meet all the diverse needs and interests of young people. When you think about a city, I mean, these are approaches that cannot easily be replicated by one another. They're unique in their approach and their resources. I want to turn to a set of questions that might generate some commonalities despite our differences in the types of agencies we run. And I'll start with Cheryl. What are some important attributes to your approach to partnerships?
Yes, thank you. I think, as way of background, I started my career as a teacher in private school, started doing a lot of volunteering in community. And when I became the director at the Human Rights Commission, it was after years of community engagement. And there are certain principles that I kind of call the ABCs of outreach and engagement that we embed, that is like required, that I learned as both a teacher and a person on the ground in community. And that's like authenticity. Like if you are not authentic, like you have to be real, even if that's like, I'm only holding this meeting because I have to, and I need to get community feedback. If you're upfront and honest about that, instead of pretending like when you go in, it's going to actually impact a decision, it goes a long way. Being honest and being on the opposite side is better than being dishonest and agreeing with someone when you don't really agree. Building relationships, I think this is another piece a step that's often missed. that people wait until they need something from community or until they want to engage with community. It's too late to build the relationship there. So building community, building relationships is really important, to be doing that all along, to have that as a guiding principle in any space that you go into. The other is centering community, like being very intentional about like what it is that community wants. And sometimes that means that you're not doing the thing that you want to do. And that's why I really appreciate the work of Housing Authority, because over the years here in San Francisco, it's been challenging to kind of have these honest conversations with community. But, you know, folks have to be willing to go in to hear from community, to center what they want and figure out what the compromise is in that. So those are kind of the general things, is that we have to be authentic and real. We have to be focused on building relationships, but we also have to center community. Like thinking that we're going to come in and say, okay, let's have let's do a read-a-thon here and say, and we're only going to read science fiction when everybody there is into cooking and they'd rather do cookbooks. Like we can't come in like that and then be like, why didn't anybody show up for this event or activity? So we really do have to be very intentional about how we work collaboratively and not how we just try to come in and push our agenda because we know what's best.
Thanks, Cheryl. I think lots of us would like to be in those types of meetings where people say what they actually mean and they're more authentic. So I appreciate you sharing that. Chris, what makes the MLB Players Association partnerships effective? What are a couple attributes?
I think, similar to what Cheryl said, I think just clarity on roles and expectations is really important. You know, this is what we have to offer. This is what we hope it will do to benefit, you know, your recipients. And from partners, you know, we need the ABC and most importantly, know and trust that our partners are creating and fostering that positive and nurturing environment for young people. So those are really some of the most important things that we look for. Try to avoid, you know, making too many assumptions from a partner, making too many demands, you know, that we didn't sort of agree on up front. Just really setting expectations to ensure we're adding value to those community-based organizations we work with. So that's a little bit about, you know, our approach, knowing that things can change and we kind of have to remain fluid. And the last thing I'll say is that, you know, everything we do really is ultimately player driven. And the great thing about the Players Trust is, you know, we're not limited to the 30 cities that host Major League Baseball teams. You know, we have players that work there, want to be involved in those communities, but they also hail from, you know, every town around America and also outside of America as well. So at the end of the day, we look for those communities that players may identify or have a special connection to, and vice versa. You know, organizations also will sometimes identify those players, and we sort of make the connection on the back end that way.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, I mean, just to reiterate, aligning and clarifying roles. Cheryl mentioned building relationships. Both of those things take time. They sound somewhat obvious in any sort of partnership, but are often overlooked, and you pay the price if you don't put those in place right away. Sonia, how about from the Housing Authority's perspective? What one or two attributes help you build and support partnerships?
So piggybacking off of what was already said, it's about identifying what our residents need, and then that creates a standard. And it's important that the standard is created by our residents, because sometimes the ecosystem of support doesn't meet what our residents need. And so from an equity perspective, we have to sometimes fill in the gaps. And so we look and say, okay, well, what is what our residents needs, and what is it that the summer learning program partners are able to provide? And then we take that and say, okay, there's a gap here. How do we address that gap? And we start having conversations with partners like NSLA and the local Columbus Urban League and other organizations that have similar social impact goals, and say, if it's an expectation for us wanting our residents to be at this end result, but we keep delivering programming at this standard, we're never going to get there. And so CMHA has the capacity to be able to subsidize some of the programming so that those those summer learning opportunities can sort of like level up to be able to not only meet that standard, but that new standard, but to be an example of what it looks like to have a full comprehensive program. And one of those ways that we did that was with our partnership with OSU Life Sports. And they had a wonderful program on campus, but it was, they only had 4 locations within the city that they would do pickups. It was only from 9 to 2, and it was only for 4 weeks out of the summer. And so when they came and wanted to partner with us, we were excited, but we said there's a gap. Our residents need programming all day and all summer. And not just all day, they need early pickup so they can be the early drop off so they can go to work before 9. And they need later pickup so that they can work until at least 5 so that they can be able to pick up their children by 6. And so that actually happened with OSU Life Sports' first off-site full day, full summer camp. And so that has now led to not just that first, we now have 3 sites for OSU Life Sports that are full summer, full day, and that is the kind of change and equity approach that makes our partnerships effective.
Yeah, keeping the real needs front and center. Appreciate you highlighting that, Sonia. Marlon, bring us home on this question. 1 or 2 attributes that make your partnerships effective.
Yeah, no, it links directly to what Sonia is saying in terms of, I think the bigger question to ask would be, what's the why? Why are you trying to build this partnership? Obviously living in the world of nonprofit and many other industries, a lot of our decision making, unfortunately, sometimes boils down to funding. And sometimes our grants lead, the initiatives. And, in a realistic scenario where you're trying to build a high quality partnership, I think your partnership has to be grounded in the mission that you have. It has to go back to the principles that you've bought into, the program model that you may have, the initiatives that you're trying to lead out on over the course of the next year. And it's important to identify those as it relates to that partnership, to that individual partnership. You need to have goals, you need to have outcomes. What do you want from this partnership? And I think you have to answer those questions before you engage. Maybe it's a partnership that comes along and there's a relationship that needs to be built, and that's fine. I think it's still about asking the right questions to make the right match, if you will. And then you have to prepare internally. Have you had the right discussions with your staff, with your team, with the other leaders in a variety of departments about how this partnership can link across the entire organization? When dealing with youth and teens, it's also about communicating effectively to the family. Have the parents received the proper information? Maybe it's a field trip. Maybe there are permission slips that need to happen, or maybe it's an opportunity for parents to actually be engaged within this partnership. And so you can find ways to involve the community. And then, you want to make sure that the people that you're serving also get an early look at what's about to happen. You want to prepare the students, prepare them for the day, before the day of, I should say, and then prepare them along the way as the partnership is ongoing. Set the expectation about what's about to happen next, about why this is valuable. Get their feedback in real time. I think that's very important at creating a high quality experience. And then finally, you've got to have the same type of conversations with the partner. I think I heard one of our panelists say earlier, I think it was Sonia, if I'm not mistaken, talk about honesty. Have those real honest conversations with the partner about what you can and can't do. And then you want to hear the same things from them so that the expectations are very clear from the beginning. And I think that's how you kind of build a foundation that leads to a very high quality partnership.
Appreciate that, Marlon. And, while partnerships may be more art than science, I think the 4 of you have illuminated some commonalities of approach. We're filling some of the 80% of a young person's waking hours spent outside of school. That's often a fraction of a person's responsibility at any given agency, but you've made it a profession and a full-time job. And really, it sounds like there are no shortcuts to do this. It takes planning, execution, a lot of listening to meet actual needs in an authentic way. Thank you all for joining us so much. I think we're at time now, so I'm going to turn it back to
Totally.
Roderick.
Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you, Chris, Cheryl, Sister Sonia, Brother Marlon. Appreciate you very much. Thank you so much for your passion and your presence. And that's a wrap. That's a wrap. That's a wrap for us, the NSLA Summer Learning Bootcamp 2024. We thank you all for being present, live and direct. We thank our generous sponsors for making this bootcamp possible. Thank you, Wallace, Waterford.org, STEM Sports, the Achievery, San Francisco Human Rights Commission. Thank you, Engage Every Student, U.S. Department of Education. Thank you, National Inventors Hall of Fame, for being a presenting sponsor for the bootcamp. We appreciate you very much. And I hope to see you all in November 11th through the 13th at the beautiful Mayflower Hotel in Washington, D.C. for the Summer Learning Summit. Thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you there. Thank you for being part of this boot camp. And it's not the end of the boot camp. It's just the beginning. It's the beginning. What do we do with this information? Let's take it. Let's move forward. Let's reflect. Let's continue to create access to high quality summer learning experiences for every single young person that needs it, wants it, desires it. Thank you so much for your time, energy, passion, and presence. We'll see you soon.